I've said in the past that I don't want to talk negatively about up-and-coming bands on this channel, but I've got to tell the truth. Welcome, metalheads. I'm the host of Heavy Metal Philosophy and writer for Metal Digest, John Barbas. Make sure you stick around to the end of the episode for this week's Riff of the Week. All right, let me set up the episode for you. This past weekend, I got a photo pass to shoot one of my favorite bands, The Ocean. I love this band, and I was supremely excited for this opportunity. And, I haven't heard of the opening acts, but that's cool. I like seeing opening acts. I know a lot of people, if they don't like the opening act, they just wait. They don't show up until the headliner goes on. I don't like that. I've discovered a lot of great bands opening for headliners that I came to see. Bands like Gojira, Zeal and Ardor, and Enforce are examples of bands that I've discovered opening for somebody else before they got big. And I'm still a fan of those bands to this day. So I like showing up early. I like seeing opening bands, and I hate seeing an empty room that stays empty until the headliner goes on. I've had a great run of concerts with a bunch of stacked lineups. I'm pretty spoiled. But this time I didn't really like the opening bands. I guess it was bound to happen eventually, right? So let me tell you how it started. I get to the venue, first thing I do as I go up to the stage and get my white balance set up. I'm setting up my gear for the photo shoot. And the first thing I notice is there's just guitars laying on the ground on the stage. They're not on a guitar stand. They're not in cases. They're just laying on the ground. The hairs on the back of my neck just stood on end. Who would do this? That was just a terrible first impression. So the show starts and the first band up is called Shy Low. That's two words, the word shy and the word low, Shy Low. And it doesn't take me long to figure out that this is an instrumental band and they're playing like atmospheric post-metal and it got a little heavy at times. So I thought to myself, okay, this will be okay. This might be cool. But it wasn't cool. It got boring pretty quick. Every song just seemed to be written the exact same way. One guitar would arpeggiate a chord progression and just layer it with thick delay so it sounds, quote, spacey. Then another guitar would tremolo pick single notes over that chord progression with a lot of delay again, to make it sound atmospheric. And then a third guitar would follow what the rhythm section is doing with chugs to give it depth. Every single song was like that. The drummer was a beast, but all the songs were the same. They all had the same pace, the same cadence, and the same formula. And every now and again, it would break into a heavy section, and then all of the members would play that heavy riff in unison. And that would be kind of cool and exciting. But for the most part, just that post-metal wall of sound, same every single time. Just look at this guy. He's got his chin in his hand resting on the barricade. He's bored. That is the last thing I want to see in the crowd at a rock and roll show. Look at this guy. He's clearly daydreaming. He is anywhere else except for in that venue on that night watching that band. He is in a completely different universe. And if I'd have been just a spectator, this would have been one of those bands where I go to the bar and have a drink, or I go outside and get some fresh air. But since I was there to do a job, that wasn't an option for me. So I did the best I could to get the best photos I could. But it was pretty hard to get anything interesting. I don't want to come here and take a big dump on a band. I don't like doing that. I got to tell the truth, I can't just be like, this band was awesome when it wasn't. And maybe those of you that are into that sort of post-metal, maybe you would like it. But thankfully, the next band up was far more entertaining. Unfortunately for me, the music is just not something that I'm into. The band was entertaining, but there's just certain genres that I'm just not gonna like, and emo is one of those genres. I just don't like it. And the band's name was The World is a Beautiful Place, and I'm No Longer Afraid to Die. I love that band name. Just don't ever ask me to say it again. Seriously, What do fans of this band call them when they're trying to spread the good word? There's not even a good acronym you can use. So outside of their way too long band name that's pretty cool admittedly, they were entertaining. They put on a good show. Just look at this guy. This guy's smiling. He's having a good time. That's way better than Mr. Chin in his hand leaning on the rail. And there was some cool atmospheric sort of stuff going on with the keys. Emo is just not really for me. But the band, they put on an entertaining performance. The rhythm section was really good. And especially the far side guitar player. It's this short, stocky guy with a big beard, bald head. That guy was going off. That guy felt the music. Hats off to my short king over there. And then finally, it was time for the Ocean to go on stage. And I mean, it's the Ocean. They killed it, of course. And some people might think that when a great band follows a bunch of mid bands, they're gonna sound like heroes. I don't really like that. I prefer for the show to build to a crescendo and then just peak. I don't want to feel like I'm being rescued. And it was like a completely different show. I mean, it even sounded better sonically. It sounded to me like a completely different team was running sound on a completely different board. Everything was just so tight. It sounded like they dialed in the frequencies for that room, and there was no interference, no room noise, no wasted headroom. And I also finally saw a mosh. Mind you, it wasn't a full-on pit, but just to see any movement whatsoever in the crowd was a relief. Up until that point, I didn't feel like I belonged there. If I have my camera equipment, I obviously don't join in on the mosh pit, but it's still comforting to have nearby. It's like when your wife is in another room. You may not be actively cuddling, but it still feels nice for her to be around. Anyway, the Ocean was great. They sounded great. They performed great. My only complaint about the Ocean is really just a me thing. Since I was there to shoot photos, they turned off the front of the stage lights and they only used the back lights, the lights that are behind them. So it was just constantly silhouettes on the stage, which I'm sure looked atmospheric and cool to, an audience member. But for a photographer, that was hell. I did the best I could with what I had, which, by the way, look at this guy's camera. I may have a little bit of camera envy, but anyway, at the end of the day, I'm the one tasked with getting the photos. It's not the band's job. It's not the lighting director's job to make sure it's easy for me. I just have to get better at these situations. This is the first concert I've shot where I didn't get any shots that I like. I've got to learn from this one. I've talked in the past about how challenging it is to shoot a black metal concert, but I've really learned something that I did not anticipate from shooting these prog and emo bands. I'm spoiled shooting extreme metal bands. Metal bands do more things on stage that are interesting. Prog bands, the guys are all, focused on their technique. So you wind up just getting a bunch of pictures of the guys staring at their guitars with a blank expression. The black metal shows, it's a low light situation, but I've learned how to deal with that. And then I can capture the craziness that's going on stage. There's not much craziness at a prog or emo show. So maybe black metal isn't the most challenging to shoot after all. I'm definitely going to reach out to my peers and ask for advice, try to learn and grow from this experience. And also keep in mind that this month last year was my first time being a concert photographer. It's my rookie year. And I still can't believe that my first ever gig as a concert photographer was Rotting Christ. In every shoot since then, I've learned something new and I've slowly, incrementally gotten better. But this is the first shoot, even off of my rookie shoot, this is the first one I've done where I didn't like any of my shots. This one's gonna bother me. Last week I had a hard and challenging time at the Decibel magazine tour, but I did get some shots that I'm really proud of. But that's enough belly aching. Let's talk about something fun and heavy. Let's talk about the riff of the week. This week, I'm going to pick Subatlantic by the Ocean, a killer track from a killer band who hopefully I will get an opportunity to shoot again in the future once I'm an improved photographer. And don't get it twisted, I'm not letting this get me down. I'm taking it as a challenge. And one thing that really helps me not be down is just last week, I got some pretty great shots. I mean, did you catch last week's podcast? I was in the photo pit for the Decibel magazine tour, headlined by Holder, featuring Devil Master Worm and Necrofire, and I got some pretty cool shots. If you're on YouTube and you want to see those, just click right here. If you want to get some cool metal jewelry, just go to Gthic. Links in the description. Put in my code METAL25 for 25% off. If you're listening audio only and you want to see the pictures, links in the description to my website. But most importantly, read philosophy, listen to metal. I love you.